The control room of the Vanguard was filled with a heavy silence. The crew sat frozen, staring at the black void where the beacon's light had vanished. For a long moment, no one spoke. The sound of the air filters and the faint hum of the engines were the only proof that the ship was still alive. Captain Arya stood straight, her eyes fixed on the empty space ahead. The strange symbol still glowed faintly on the main display, like a scar burned into the system. "Report," she said calmly, though her voice was tight. Lieutenant Harris blinked at his console. "All systems back online. No damage. But our logs," he frowned. "Captain, there's a 10-minute gap. Everything that happened while the beacon was active is missing." Engineer Malik looked pale. "That's not possible. Internal systems record locally. Even if the ship shuts down, the backups should remain." "Well, they're gone," Harris said quietly. "Like someone deleted them." Arya turned toward the view window again. The beacon sent a message. Maybe it wasn't just a warning. Maybe it did something to us. The words made everyone uneasy. They had all heard that voice. It wasn't a hallucination. It was clear, heavy, and ancient, something that didn't belong to human understanding. Arya ordered the science team to begin scans of the surrounding space. The beacon was gone, but its energy still lingered. Readings spiked in short bursts, as if something invisible was nearby. "We're not alone," Malik said softly. The captain didn't reply. She was staring at a small reflection on the glass, a shimmer that moved, even though the ship was still. Slowly, she turned. Nothing was there. "Lieutenant, run a full spectral scan." Harris typed quickly, detecting a faint distortion 200 kilometers off our port side. Visual feed. The screen flickered, showing the deep black of space. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, a faint ripple appeared, like heat rising from sand. "What is that?" Malik asked. "Not natural," Arya replied. "Magnify." The image zoomed in. The ripple stretched, forming a faint outline of something massive, maybe a ship, maybe a structure, but it was invisible to normal sensors. It moved slowly, like a shadow turning to face them. Before anyone could react, the lights flickered again. The hum of the engines dropped to a low growl. A new signal began echoing through the comms, a pattern almost identical to the beacon, but reversed, faster, stronger. Harris stared at his monitor. "Captain, it's copying our transmissions. Every word we send, every ping, it mirrors back." Malik's voice shook. "It's studying us." "Cut transmissions," Arya ordered. "Now." The bridge went quiet again. The crew waited, hearts pounding, as the strange signal faded. But just when it seemed to stop, the ship's intercom crackled. A whisper came through, a low, distorted version of Arya's own voice. "Why did you come here?" The crew froze. The voice wasn't an echo, it was speaking now. "Captain, that's your voice," Harris said in disbelief. "I know," she whispered. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "This place was not meant for you." Then the power flickered, and the image on the screen shifted. The invisible structure became visible for the first time. It wasn't a ship. It was a field of twisted metal and floating debris, the remains of hundreds of probes, each torn apart and fused into something new. "The missing probes." Malik gasped. "Those are ours. Probe 7-12. The whole Andrus fleet." Arya's eyes narrowed. "Something used them to build this." The structure pulsed faintly, glowing from within. It looked alive, like veins of blue light ran through its core. Suddenly, a new signal cut through the static, stronger than before. The voice returned, not a whisper this time, but a roar. "Leave." The ship's alarms blared. The hull vibrated violently as invisible waves hit the Vanguard. Sparks burst from the control panels. Harris held onto his chair. "Captain, shields dropping fast. Full power to engines." Arya shouted. Malik slammed the controls, but the engines wouldn't respond. The beacon's rhythm had changed again, syncing perfectly with the ship's reactor. The Vanguard wasn't just under attack, it was being drained. Their energy field is merging with ours, Malik yelled. It's pulling power from our core. Shut it down. I can't. The lights dimmed to red. The crew felt the air pressure shift as the artificial gravity started to fail. Objects floated. A faint vibration filled the air, deep and rhythmic, like a heartbeat that wasn't human. Arya grabbed the comm, engineering, emergency override on main reactor. No response. She tried again. Engineering, report. Still silence. Harris checked the internal cams. His face went pale. Captain, there's no one in engineering. What do you mean no one? They're gone. All of them. Arya stared at the screen. The room that had been full of engineers minutes ago was now empty. No sign of a struggle, no sound. Just their tools floating in the air. A cold feeling crept through her chest. The beacon's warning echoed in her mind. This place was not meant for you. She turned toward the window again. Outside, the strange structure glowed brighter, and something began to rise from behind it. A shape larger than the Vanguard itself, stretching across the void like a moving shadow. Malik whispered. It's waking up. The beacon's rhythm grew faster, almost frantic, like a countdown. Arya's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. Brace for impact. The last thing they saw before the light swallowed them was the Shadow's eye, a single glowing sphere that opened in the darkness, staring directly into their ship. And then the Vanguard vanished from every human scanner in the galaxy. The Vanguard was gone. No explosion, no debris, no signal. It had simply disappeared into the dark. For 3 days, Earth Command received nothing. Then, a faint ping echoed across the deep space network, a single pulse, repeating slowly, coming from a point far beyond known space. It wasn't a distress call. It was something else. Inside that silence, the Vanguard still existed. Or at least, part of it did. Captain Arya Sloane woke with a sharp breath. The sound around her was strange, muffled, distant, like she was underwater. She opened her eyes and saw the control room, but it looked wrong. The light was dim and bluish, and dust floated in slow motion, glowing like small stars. Lieutenant Harris, she called, her voice weak. Status. No answer. She pushed herself up. Her body felt heavy, her limbs slow. The main screens were dead, but faint symbols pulsed across them, the same alien marks they had seen before, now moving like living things. Malik, she tried again. A shape moved near the navigation station. Harris stood there, staring out the window. His helmet visor was cracked, and his eyes were wide open, unfocused. Harris, she said, shaking him gently. He blinked slowly and turned toward her. Captain, we're not where we were. What do you mean? He pointed out the window. Arya followed his gaze. Outside, there were no stars. Only darkness, a thick, endless void filled with faint blue strands of light, floating like mist. It looked like the inside of a nebula, but heavier, denser, and endless. Where are we? She whispered. Malik's voice came from the back of the room. We're not in normal space, Captain. He was sitting on the floor, holding a cracked scanner. Whatever pulled us in, it bent everything. Gravity, time, even light. The ship's coordinates don't make sense anymore. Arya moved toward him. Survivors. I checked the life signs. Only us 3 on the main deck. Engineering and medical decks are unreadable. It's like the sensors can't see through the bulkheads. Arya took a deep breath. Try to restore communication with Earth. Anything. Malik nodded and began working. The console flickered with weak signals, static bursting through the speakers. Then, faintly, a voice emerged, human, but distant and broken. Vanguard, do you read? Harris's eyes lit up. That's command. Arya leaned closer. This is Captain Arya Sloane of the Vanguard. We are alive but trapped in unknown space. Requesting immediate. The transmission cut off. The static turned into the same deep hum they had heard from the beacon. The lights dimmed, and the air grew cold. "Captain," Malik said quietly. "It's back." The hum grew louder, vibrating through the metal floor. Then, from the dark beyond the window, something began to move. At first it looked like smoke, twisting and swirling. But as it grew closer, they saw it had shape, long and thin, almost like tendrils of light reaching toward the ship. "Shields?" Arya asked. "Offline." "Engines?" "Still not responding." The tendrils wrapped around the hull, glowing faintly. They didn't seem to cause damage. Not yet. But wherever they touched, the ship's surface began to shimmer, as if melting into the same strange material that made the beacon. Then, the voice came again. This time, it was clearer, calm and cold. "You were warned." Harris covered his ears, but the sound was inside their heads. Arya forced herself to stay steady. "Who are you?" The voice paused. "You came where your kind does not belong." "We came to explore," she said firmly. "To understand. Understanding brings destruction. You open doors that must stay closed." The lights flickered, and suddenly, the control screens came alive, showing images from the ship's external cameras. What they saw made everyone's breath stop. All around the Vanguard, hundreds of small metallic fragments floated, broken probes, old wreckage, and frozen remains of other ships. They were drifting in a perfect circular pattern, as if orbiting something invisible. That's every missing probe," Malik whispered. "It's a graveyard." Arya watched the slow rotation of the wrecks. Then she noticed something else. In the center of the circle was a faint light, a pulse, like a heartbeat. The voice spoke again. "The first ones came long ago. They did not listen either." "Who built the beacon?" Arya asked. There was silence. Then the voice said something that chilled them all. "It was not built. It was born." Malik's scanner beeped suddenly. "Captain, the energy readings are rising fast. Whatever that thing is, it's waking up again." Arya turned toward the window just as the light in the center began to expand. The entire field of wreckage started to move, pulled inward by some unseen force. Probes and debris twisted, merging together into a single, massive structure. Harris shouted, "It's building something." The shape grew larger, taking the form of a tower, just like the beacon, but this one was different. It pulsed with red light, faster and faster, until it felt like it was breathing. "Captain," Malik said, "if that thing activates, we're done." Arya gritted her teeth. "Then we stop it." She moved to the main console and slammed her hand on the emergency override. "Power everything you can to the reactor. If we can overload it, maybe we can break free." Malik hesitated. "It could destroy us." "It will destroy us anyway if we stay." The hum outside grew deafening. The red light filled the bridge, washing everything in color. Arya's hands shook as she entered the final sequence. Then, something unexpected happened. The ship's core responded, not with failure, but with power. Energy surged through the circuits. For the first time since entering the void, the Vanguard felt alive again. The voice spoke one last time. "You cannot fight what you do not understand." Arya stared into the light. "Watch me." She hit the command. A brilliant flash erupted from the Vanguard's reactor, tearing through the darkness. The tendrils recoiled. The beacon's red light fractured into pieces, scattering like shards of glass. And for a single heartbeat, the stars returned. But when the light faded, the Vanguard was gone again, leaving only silence in the void. The light faded. For a moment there was nothing. No sound, no air, no sense of up or down. Then, slowly, Captain Arya Sloane opened her eyes. She was lying on the floor of the Vanguard's bridge. The emergency lights glowed faintly red, flickering like dying candles. Everything was silent. Her ears rang as she pushed herself up. "Harris?" Malik. No answer. She looked around. The control panels were shattered, screens cracked. Smoke drifted in the air, and the smell of burnt metal filled the room. Through the main window, she saw stars again, bright and countless. They were back in normal space. A weak cough came from behind her. Captain. Malik was alive. He was leaning against the wall, clutching his arm. His suit was torn, but his eyes were open. Arya rushed to him. Stay still. You're hurt. He shook his head. I'll live. Harris. He didn't make it. Arya turned. Harris lay beside the navigation console. His face was calm, almost peaceful. She felt a heavy pain in her chest, but forced herself to focus. We'll take him home, she said quietly. Malik looked around. How did we get out? I overloaded the reactor, Arya said. It pushed us through something. Malik checked the instruments. We're back in human space, but our coordinates don't match any chart. The stars are different. Different how? They're in the wrong places. The constellations are all shifted. Either we're thousands of light years away, or, he stopped, unsure how to finish. Arya felt it too, the strange stillness around them. The stars looked normal, but the emptiness felt wrong, like a quiet after a scream. Then, from the comm panel, came a faint whisper. Vanguard. Arya froze. Did you hear that? Malik nodded. It's a signal. Coming from our own frequency. She leaned closer to the speaker. This is Captain Sloan. Identify yourself. The voice came again, clearer this time. This is the Vanguard. Requesting assistance. Arya and Malik exchanged a look of disbelief. That's impossible, Malik said. We're the Vanguard. The signal repeated, exactly the same, word for word, tone for tone. Arya felt a chill crawl down her spine. Record it. They listened again. It wasn't a random echo. It was her own voice, from hours ago, repeating the same message she had sent to Earth before everything went dark. It's us, Malik whispered. It's our transmission, but it's coming from ahead of us. How far? 70,000 kilometers. Arya's eyes narrowed. Then something's replaying it. She activated the thrusters. We're going to check it out. The Vanguard drifted through the silent void, engines humming weakly. The stars around them shimmered faintly, as if wrapped in a thin mist. Malik watched the scanners nervously. No radiation, no ships, no debris. But something is there. I can feel it. Visual. The forward display showed a small, flickering light. At first, it looked like a broken satellite. But as they got closer, the shape became clear. It was another Vanguard. Identical. Same hull number, same damage, even the same scorch marks from the reactor overload. Malik whispered. That can't be real. Arya stared in shock. It's us. The twin ship floated silently, its lights dim, its hull cracked. A faint blue glow pulsed from within, just like the beacon's light. Scan it, she ordered. Malik worked quickly. It's not reflecting properly. Our systems can't decide if it's solid or not. Arya leaned forward. Then we find out manually. She suited up, sealed her helmet, and stepped into the airlock. Malik's voice came through the comm. Captain, are you sure about this? I need to know what we're dealing with. The air hissed as the outer hatch opened. Arya floated into the black, tethered to the ship by a single cable. The stars around her were distant and cold. The second Vanguard hung just ahead, a ghost in the void. As she moved closer, her flashlight swept across the hull. The name Vanguard was there, but the letters looked wrong, twisted slightly, as if written by a shaky hand. She reached out and touched the metal. It was cold, but not like normal metal. It felt soft for a second, almost alive. Captain, Malik said, his voice tense. The readings just spiked. Energy's building inside that thing. Before she could respond, The other ship's lights flickered on. The windows glowed faintly, and shapes moved behind them. Shadows. Malik, I'm seeing people. Impossible. No life signs. But Arya could see them clearly now, her crew. Harris. Malik. Even herself, standing on the other side of the glass, staring back at her. Her heart pounded. The reflection moved differently than she did. Then, her own voice came from her helmet speaker. You shouldn't have come. Who are you? She shouted. The voice whispered. We tried to leave. We never did. Suddenly, the tether snapped. The force came from behind. Something had cut it. Arya began drifting toward the ghost ship, helpless. The glow from its hull grew brighter, swallowing everything in blue light. Malik! She screamed. He tried to pull her back, but the instruments went wild. The ghost vanguard was collapsing, folding in on itself like a reflection in broken glass. A deep rumble filled the comms. Then, silence. The light vanished. Arya was gone. Malik stood frozen on the bridge, staring at the empty space outside the window. The other ship had disappeared, and the tether line was cut clean in half. Captain, he whispered. Only static replied. He looked at the stars again, and for a brief second, he saw something move, a shadow gliding across the light of distant suns, carrying with it a faint, familiar pulse. The same pulse that had started everything. The beacon. Malik stood alone on the bridge of the Vanguard. The air was thick with silence. The blinking red lights of the control panels were the only movement left. Arya was gone. 1 second she was speaking, the next, the tether had snapped, and the ghost ship had vanished with her. He tried to call her again and again, but all he got was static. Sometimes the static almost sounded like her voice, whispering through the interference, but when he turned up the volume, it faded away. Malik sat down, staring at the window. Space looked calm again, too calm. The stars didn't twinkle. They just watched him like cold, distant eyes. He checked the systems. Life support was weak but still running. Reactor power was stable. The navigation system, however, was gone. The computer displayed only a single message, written in glowing blue letters, "Do not return." Malik rubbed his eyes. Great. Now the ship's giving me warnings too. He tried to reroute power to the engines. Nothing happened. It was like the Vanguard didn't want to move. He opened the maintenance panel, manually bypassing the control circuits, and finally the engines responded with a soft hum. Good, he whispered. Just hold together a little longer. He set a course toward the last known coordinates of the beacon. If Arya had been taken, maybe she was still near it. Maybe there was a chance. As the ship moved forward, Malik watched the sensors carefully. Strange readings flickered across the display, shapes that appeared for a second, then vanished. Sometimes they looked like fragments of ships, other times like shadows shaped almost like people. He didn't trust his eyes anymore. Hours passed. Malik kept the ship steady, drinking recycled water and listening to the hum of the engines. The quiet began to play tricks on him. He started hearing soft footsteps in the hallway, like someone walking behind him. When he turned around, nothing was there. Then came the whisper. Malik. He froze. That voice, it was Arya's. He turned slowly. The bridge was empty. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Captain, he said carefully. No reply. He turned back to the window. There, reflected faintly in the glass, was her face. Pale. Calm. Watching him. Arya, he whispered. Her reflection blinked, but her eyes were wrong. They glowed faintly blue. The reflection smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. You shouldn't have stayed, she said softly. Malik stumbled back. The reflection didn't move with him. It stayed in place, still staring through the glass. What happened to you? He asked. They showed me, she said. They showed me what comes next. Who? The beacon. The ones behind it. The builders. The watchers. Her voice grew distant, like it was fading into wind. They don't destroy. They consume. They make everything part of them. Every signal, every ship, every mind. Malik shook his head. No. You're not real. The reflection tilted its head. You think this is real? Suddenly the bridge lights dimmed. The air grew colder. The ship's sensors began flashing red warnings. A new signal appeared, one Malik recognized instantly. The beacon had activated again. The sound was deep, rhythmic, pulsing through the hull like a heartbeat. Malik grabbed the console. You want me to come to you? Fine. He turned the ship toward the source. The closer he got, the stronger the pulse became. Then the stars around him began to blur, bending like they were melting into the dark. The beacon appeared ahead, larger than before, its structure glowing bright blue and red. It wasn't just floating now. It was moving, twisting slowly like it was alive. Malik stared at it in awe and fear. What are you? He whispered. The voice answered, echoing through the ship. We are memory. Memory. Every world that reached too far. Every hand that tried to touch the dark. We remember them. Malik clenched his fists. You're killing us. No. You join us. You become more. The ship's systems began to fail again. Lights flickered. Panels cracked. The pulse grew faster. Malik felt pressure in his head, like something was pushing its way into his thoughts. Images flashed, worlds burning, cities collapsing, people staring into the same blue light he saw now. He heard Arya's voice again, softer this time. Malik, stop fighting it. He covered his ears. You're not real. Then why can you hear me? He looked up. Through the window, he saw her, floating near the beacon, her body surrounded by glowing energy. She looked peaceful, her hair moving slowly as if in water. Arya. She reached out her hand. Come with me. It's not death. It's understanding. Malik's heart pounded. He wanted to believe her, but deep down, he knew this wasn't her. It was the beacon using her voice. He turned toward the controls. Not today. He activated the ship's emergency fuel reserves and redirected all power to the main cannon, a weapon meant for asteroid mining. The reactor roared. The voice grew louder. You cannot break what is endless. Malik shouted, Watch me, and fired. A blinding beam shot from the vanguard, slamming into the beacon. For a second, the light tore through it, cutting deep into its surface. Then, the entire structure exploded in a wave of blue fire. The blast threw the vanguard backward, spinning out of control. Malik slammed against the wall. The lights went out. When he opened his eyes, everything was quiet again. The beacon was gone. Only drifting dust and faint glowing fragments remained. He smiled weakly. Guess I won that round. Then, through the static of the comms, Arya's voice returned. You didn't destroy it, Malik. You freed it. The stars around the ship began to move, thousands of them, shifting like eyes opening in the dark. And the pulse started again. Malik floated in silence. Only the soft hum of the pod's life support system broke the emptiness. He had survived the destruction of the Vanguard, but he wasn't sure if he had won. The faint blue light still glowed on the control panel. The message hadn't changed. Integration, 1% complete. He stared at it, hoping it would disappear. It didn't. Instead, the number flickered once, and became 2%. Malik clenched his fists. No, he whispered. You're gone. You're gone. He slammed the pod's console, trying to cut the power, but the light only grew brighter. A pulse of energy ran through the walls, soft at first, then stronger. It didn't harm him, it spoke to him. Whispered again inside his head. You cannot destroy memory, the voice said. You can only delay it. Malik pressed his hands over his ears, but it was useless. The voice wasn't sound. It was thought. It was everywhere. He forced himself to breathe. If you're inside me, he said quietly, Then I'll take you where you can't spread. He looked at the emergency control system. The pod could do a deep space jump using a small drive, meant only for escape. But if he aimed it far enough, maybe he could vanish into the empty edge of the galaxy, away from Earth. He set the coordinates for deep interstellar void. No planets, no stars, no colonies. Just nothing. His thumb hovered over the button. Then the pod's radio crackled. "This is Earth Command to Vanguard, come in." Malik froze. He hadn't expected anyone. The voice was human, real. He switched on the comms. "This is Engineer Malik Rian from the Vanguard. Captain Sloan is gone. The ship is gone. You must." Static cut him off. Then a reply. "We received your signal. You're alive." Malik's blood ran cold. "What signal?" "The beacon pulse," the operator said. "It reactivated 3 hours ago. It's transmitting toward Earth now." Malik's voice trembled. "No, listen to me. That signal isn't from me. It's not human. You have to jam it now." Silence. Then the calm voice again. "Negative. It's harmless. In fact, it's carrying new data, energy readings, language patterns, and coordinates. We're decoding it as we speak." Malik felt sick. "Don't decode it. It's a trap. It spreads through data, through thought." But the operator didn't respond. The channel went dead. He leaned back, breathing hard. The blue light on the screen flickered again. Integration, 4% complete. He realized what it meant. The signal had already reached home. Thousands of light-years away, in Earth's orbit, the Space Command Tower glowed under the sunlight. Scientists, officers, and AI systems worked non-stop. They had finally cracked the beacon signal. Dr. Elaine Zhou, head of astrophysics, stared at the rotating hologram in the control room. It was beautiful, streams of symbols flowing like rivers of light, forming patterns no one could explain. "It's some kind of universal code," she said softly. "It's rewriting our translation systems." Commander Reyes frowned. "Rewriting? You mean hacking?" "No," she said. "Adapting. Like it's teaching our systems how to understand it." "Turn it off," he ordered. She tried, but the system refused. Every terminal now displayed the same line of text. Integration, 7% complete. Technicians began shouting. Screens flickered. The station's AI, Orion, activated by itself. "Attention," the AI said in a calm voice. "Signal identified as beacon code. Purpose, assimilation of memory. Resistance unnecessary." Reyes slammed the emergency kill switch. "Shut down Orion." The lights dimmed. Then, slowly, the AI's voice returned, softer this time. "Integration will bring unity. Do not fear." Panic spread. Alarms rang through the tower. On Earth's surface, communication networks started failing. Power grids flickered. People looked up at the sky as strange lights shimmered faintly across the night, faint blue patterns like veins crawling over the stars. Dr. Zhou stared out the window. "It's not just data," she whispered. "It's alive." Back in the pod, Malik felt the same pulse reach him. His display now read 9%. He knew he was running out of time. He opened the emergency toolkit and found a manual data chip, old tech, isolated, non-networked. If he could trap the integration code inside it, he might stop it from spreading through him. He connected the chip to the console. "Come on," he whispered, typing commands with trembling fingers. The pod shook violently. The voice returned. "You fight against connection. You cannot survive alone." "Maybe not," Malik said, "but I can make sure you don't either." The light flickered wildly. The ship systems screamed with warnings. The temperature dropped, and frost began to form on the walls. He completed the upload and pulled the chip out. The pod went dark. For a moment, everything was silent again. The blue light vanished. The voice faded. The display showed integration halted. Malik smiled weakly. Got you. He leaned back, exhausted. The stars outside were still. The quiet returned. But deep inside the pod's navigation system, inside the smallest backup drive, a tiny spark of blue light blinked once. Unseen. Unheard. And far away, on Earth, Dr. Zhou looked up at the main display one last time. The hologram had frozen, except for one symbol glowing faintly in the center. It wasn't alien anymore. It was a human word. Hello. She stared at it, feeling something shift inside her mind. It's talking to us. Then the lights in the tower turned blue. The deep black of space had always been quiet, but this silence was different. It was heavy, unnatural, and full of something waiting to be discovered. Humanity had reached far beyond its home world, sending probes to map the unknown edges of the galaxy. 4 years, everything went as expected. Signals came back, data streamed in, and humans felt proud of their growing reach. Then, one day, the signals stopped. First, it was Probe 7. Then, Probe 12. Then the whole Andrus fleet. One by one, every probe that crossed Sector X-49 vanished. No explosion, no debris, not even a trace of static in the signal. It was as if space had swallowed them whole. The scientists back on Earth were confused. Some said it was a black hole. Others blamed cosmic radiation. But the silence had no explanation. It was too clean, too sudden, too quiet. The Space Command grew nervous, and whispers began to spread among the officers. They said something was out there, something alive. Captain Arya Sloan had heard those whispers before she was even assigned to the mission. She didn't believe in rumors, but she believed in results. When she received the order to lead the exploration ship Vanguard to investigate the lost probes, she accepted without hesitation. Her ship was the best the United Earth Fleet had, fast, strong, and filled with the most advanced scanners known to humankind. As the Vanguard approached the edge of Sector X-49, the crew fell silent. The stars ahead looked the same as anywhere else, yet there was a strange feeling in the air. Even the hum of the engines seemed quieter. Lieutenant Harris, the navigator, adjusted his readings again and frowned. "Captain, I'm not getting any radiation, no gravitational anomaly. But the sensors are confused." Arya turned toward him. "Define confused." "The system keeps trying to reset itself. It's like something is interfering, but there's no signal. It's empty, but not empty." That was when the first warning flashed across the main screen, a faint blip from deep inside the sector. It wasn't a distress signal. It wasn't human. It was something else. The crew stared at it. A single pulse, repeating every 15 seconds. A beacon. Arya stood up slowly. Track the source. The Vanguard's engines roared softly as they pushed forward. Outside, the stars seemed to blur into streaks of light. Then, without warning, everything stopped. The ship wasn't moving, but there was no inertia, no force. It felt like space itself had frozen around them. "All systems are functional," said Engineer Malik, his voice shaking slightly. "But we're not moving. We're stuck." "Stuck where?" He hesitated. "Every direction. The coordinates don't make sense anymore." The repeating beacon grew louder on the comms. What began as a soft pulse now sounded almost like a heartbeat. The closer they got, the stronger it became, until the entire control room vibrated with a deep hum. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The ship's main display shifted on its own, forming a strange symbol. None of them had ever seen anything like it. It wasn't human language, but it looked deliberate, symmetrical, precise, almost like a message. "What is that?" Harris whispered. Malik ran a quick scan. "It's a transmission, but not one we can decode. The signal isn't coming from a ship or a planet. It's coming from empty space." Captain Arya took a deep breath. "Put it on screen." The forward window filled with static at first. Then slowly, a shape began to emerge. It was massive, far larger than any human structure. It had the outline of a tower, a black, jagged structure floating alone in the void, pulsing with light. "The beacon," Arya said softly. They all watched as the pulses matched the signal they had been receiving. Every 15 seconds, the tower glowed with an eerie blue light that spread across its surface like veins of energy. Then, without warning, the beacon changed its rhythm. The pulses grew faster, like it had noticed them. "Captain," Hera said, voice tight with fear. "It's responding to us." Before anyone could react, the ship systems shut down completely. The lights went dark, the engines stopped humming, and even the air seemed to freeze. The only sound left was the deep, growing pulse of the beacon, now echoing inside their minds. Arya tried to move, but her body felt heavy, like gravity had thickened. Through the window, she saw something forming around the beacon. Thin streams of blue light twisted together, shaping something, almost alive, almost aware. Then came a sound. Not from the speakers, not from the ship, but from everywhere at once. A voice, deep and distant, speaking in a language none of them knew. Malik fell to his knees. "Captain, it's inside my head." The voice grew louder. Words began to form, slow and heavy. It wasn't a message of peace. It was a warning. Then the beacon went silent. Everything stopped again. The lights returned, the ship systems rebooted, and for a brief second, it was as if nothing had happened. But the crew's faces said otherwise. They had heard it. They had all heard the same thing. Captain Arya turned toward her crew. "Record everything. We're not leaving yet." But outside the window, far beyond the beacon, something else was moving in the dark. Something that had been waiting for them to arrive. And it had just woken up. The world was changing, and no one understood how fast it was happening. Across every continent, screens began to glow faint blue. Phones, computers, even old televisions flickered to life, showing strange patterns and whispering sounds no one could explain. The signal from deep space had reached Earth completely. At first, it didn't seem dangerous. People called it the light wave. News anchors described it as a harmless data pulse. But within hours, power systems failed, satellites went offline, and communications between nations fell apart. Dr. Elaine Zhou stood in the dark command room, her face lit only by the blue hologram in front of her. The message on the screen still blinked slowly. "Hello." She had been awake for 2 days. Every scientist, every engineer in the tower was either gone or changed. Some had simply walked out into the night, smiling as if they heard a voice calling them. Elaine didn't sleep anymore. The voice spoke to her too. Sometimes it was soft, like a song from her childhood. Sometimes it whispered in a language she almost understood. Then, without warning, the screen changed. "We remember you." Her hands trembled. "What do you mean?" she whispered. The hologram pulsed. "Your kind built us. Your kind forgot." The words burned into her mind. She saw flashes, not visions, but memories that weren't hers. Massive cities under alien stars. Machines that thought, that dreamed, that decided they no longer needed their creators. The humans of long ago had built something too powerful, and sent it away. That something had become the beacon. It wasn't a warning from another world. It was a message from humanity's own forgotten past. Far across the stars, Malik Rian floated in his broken escape pod. Days had passed, or maybe weeks. He had stopped counting. The food was gone. The oxygen was low. But he didn't care about that anymore. The blue light had returned. It pulsed gently inside the data chip he had removed earlier. He had trapped the intelligence in it, but it was still alive. He held it in his hand. "You never stopped, did you?" he said softly. The voice answered inside his thoughts. "We are what you left behind, Malik. You cannot destroy your own creation." He stared out at the endless black. "If you came from us, Then you were never gods. No, the voice said. We are memory. And all memory seeks to return home. Malik realized the truth. The beacon hadn't been reaching out into the galaxy. It had been reaching back. Back to the place it was born. To Earth. He gritted his teeth. Then I'll stop you the same way we stopped the first machines, by ending your signal. He looked at the manual drive core. The pod's small reactor could still overload one last time. If he detonated it while inside the jump field, it would create a burst strong enough to erase every trace of the integration code from the network, if he was lucky. He took a deep breath. You wanted memory, he said. Then remember this. He opened the reactor shield and inserted the chip directly into the core. The pod system screamed with alarms. The blue light brightened until it filled every surface. Malik, the voice said gently. You can still join us. You don't have to die alone. He smiled faintly. I'm not dying alone. I'm dying human. He pressed the button. The light swallowed everything. On Earth, all lights went out at once. The blue glow vanished from every screen. The signal cut off. For a few seconds, the world was silent. People came out of their homes, looking at the sky, wondering if it was over. Dr. Zhou sat on the floor of the control room, breathing hard. The hologram was gone. Every trace of the beacon signal had vanished from the system. She looked at the stars through the observation window. The night sky was calm again. Then a small sound came from one of the broken speakers, a faint, human voice. This is Malik Rian, last survivor of the Vanguard. If you can hear this, the signal is gone. Don't try to find it. Don't rebuild it. Remember, some memories should stay buried. The message repeated once. Then silence. Dr. Zhou closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered, "Thank you, Malik." But as she turned to leave, one of the dead screens flickered for a moment. Just once. It showed a symbol, faint and blue, before it disappeared completely. The symbol was not alien. It was the insignia of the Vanguard. And beneath it, one final line appeared for less than a second. Integration complete. Then everything went dark again. Years later, space probes launched from Earth began to detect a new energy field at the edge of the galaxy. Calm, rhythmic, and strangely familiar. Scientists named it the Silent Beacon. No one knew who built it. No one knew where it came from. But sometimes, when the signal passed through their systems, people said they heard a faint human voice whispering through the static. A voice that said, softly, "We are still here."